Hey everybody, it's Steve with Sky194, and I just want to say thank you for stopping by, taking the time to visit, and checking out my video. And today I'm doing one of the pros and cons, and it's on the Bentley Continental GT3 car, which is a great car. And I'm going to go over, like I said, the pros and the cons. And I'm also going to mention a few just little setup tips and some driving tips. And also at the end of the video, I will show the setup for Nurburgring here, and I will also have a link for the setup in the description, so anybody who wants to try it. I spent a good amount of time on it, and I think it's a very balanced setup for the car and very competitive. Um, so let's go ahead and start with the cons first, and there's not that many of them. And the number one on the list is braking. Unfortunately, with the Bentley, it's probably one of the worst braking cars out of the GT3 cars. I'm not gonna say it's the worst, but it's definitely in the bottom half of the field. It just between the wheelbase and the mass of the car and everything else, it just you gotta back up. I tried the car at many different tracks, and you just gotta back your brake markers up a little bit. Now, again, the more you get used to the car, the more efficient you are, and that's with any of the cars, obviously. But driving the car the way it likes to be driven. If you're trying to force, super late braking and all that, you're fighting against what the car likes. You're really just you're just beating your head against the wall. Um, I found I gained time if I would just back off the timing a little bit, carry the more corner speed through the corner, and and use the advantages of the car. And that's definitely not braking late. Of course, the next con is big. The obviously it's just a big car, and at the start of a race you have cars all over the place, and you kind of feel like you're a bull in a china shop, and you're just wanting to stay alive, and not knock anybody out, not get yourself damaged. So it's a little bit of a disadvantage just because you obviously got a really big car, and you're just trying to stay out of trouble. So that can cost you a little bit. But it's not a major con, but it is a small con. And another real small con is the reaction of the car. Um, once you get used to it, and if you really dedicate to driving it a lot, you get used to that, and it really becomes a very minor. So it's not a big thing. Um, but compared to like other cars, especially the Audi or the AMG or the Porsche, I mean, they react so much faster. Even the GTR and the Lexus RCF, I mean, even those react much faster, and they're still front-engine cars. It's just the Bentley, just with the wheelbase and the things, it just doesn't react as quick. So, but once you get used to that and you drive it that way, it's okay. It's just a different way of driving, and and your timing and all that kind of stuff. So it's a very minor con. So let's go into the pros, because there's a good amount of them. Of course, one is it's great over bumps. The car is just, I mean, it's probably one of the best cars over bumps out of all the GT3 cars. It handles bumps very well. Uh, Next is the motor. Obviously, it sounds great, it goes great, and that's one of the things obviously you want to use to your advantage is the motor in the car. It's super linear, so you don't have to have it on boil all the time, and it pulls good, slower corners and everything. So it's just great all the way around. Um, the car is very stable and predictable. So, when you're going around, and that kind of goes with the wheelbase. You got a longer wheelbase, so the car is not going to, like I said about the reaction. So on the plus side of that, it's not going to do a lot of crazy things that you're not ready for. It's going to communicate to you what it's going to do, so you can drive it that way. So that's a very good plus, and you can get up to some decent times and speed without having to basically spend a lifetime trying to get used to it. Um, Two of the pros that kind of go together, um, as far as the stiffness of the chassis. It's got a very stiff chassis to where it doesn't have flex. I mean, you can see that basically in a lot of like spa or super heavy braking zones, the car just stays flat. I mean, you don't have to go crazy with super duper heavy duty bump stops and all this other kinds of stuff. And and this chassis does not flex around, and that also adds to the stability of the car, because when you get flex, it kind of hurts on the stability. And that also goes with the tire wear. The car's got good tire wear, and I contribute that a lot to the stiff chassis. And you got a stiff chassis, the tires are going to wear more, even. They're not going to go all kinds of crazy wear issues and things like that, because the car is staying stiff on all four corners. The transmission is great. Again, one of the better transmissions, probably in the top half of all the GT3 cars. It just shifts great, downshifts great, no issues there, no any kind of missed shifts or anything like that. The setups, like the standard aggressive setups, for the most part, are good setups. Now, again, I'm giving it like to me like a B. I mean, there is a few in there that aren't the greatest, but for the large majority of them, they're good setups. And somebody that's been sim racing, they can get straight away and get the tires equalized and pretty much drive the car. And again, that goes with the car too, because the car is, again, if you're used to the right-hand drive, now that's the only thing, the right-hand drive, but obviously you don't mind that if you like the Bentley. Like me, I had to kind of get more used to it because I'm from the U.S. and we don't have right-hand drive, everything's left-hand. So it took me a little longer to get accustomed to it, but once I get used to it, I mean, I was doing the same good, just good lap times here at Nurburgring as I was with any other car. So I think I ran, not here, but doing some of the testing, I ran a high 54, which is some of my best times, since Nurburgring is not a strong track for me. So I think that I was really happy with that, with the Bentley that's a right-hand drive, that that I really wasn't sure how good it would do at Nurburgring. So again, and it's a balanced car. You just feel it's balanced when you're driving the car. You don't feel like you have any kind of major weight on the rear or front or something like some other cars that feel out of balance. The Bentley feels very balanced, and that's a plus, and that adds some confidence when you're driving, and again, in communication of what the car's doing or not doing. So again, all those things add up. So that's the pros and the cons. Let's go with the setup tips and driving tips. And basically, I don't have a lot there. The setup tips, really, the car likes to be sprung a little on the heavier side compared to some cars that actually like it lighter springs. The Bentley seems to have more precision and stability when you have a little bit heavier spring on it, and it doesn't affect the grip levels. And of course, the tires are such good wear that, like some other cars, if you try to throw a little heavier spring, you get a lot of graining and you get a lot of other issues going on, sliding. The car's sliding. The Bentley does not do that. So it usually just if you had to like pick between a lighter or heavier spring, I'd probably go with the heavier spring. The driving tips, of course, the limiter. One of the things with the limiter is you hit it so easy with this car, and again, it's just more getting used to the car as far as how it drives and the engine. But I usually short shift the car, and I'm gonna go in-car camera here, but you can see when I'm driving, I usually don't even wound it. I usually don't wind it all the way out. I just don't, because it seems like the limiter hits really quick, and then of course it just kills you. So, and this engine is so good as far as the being linear. I mean, it's got power everywhere. So, to me, I always shift it just a little on the early side, and it doesn't hurt anything. This thing accelerates like a monster. So, I mean, that's what I would recommend. And that way you just don't even, stay off that limiter. Don't overdo on the brake bias. The car, like I said, you can't put a lot of rear brake bias anyway to it, but just be careful with it because compared to other cars, it just doesn't like it, and you start getting a lot of the, you'll start getting a lot of sway, like on like a heavy braking zone, like say you're going down a straightaway and you're coming into like a turn one at a Barcelona or any place that's got a real hard braking zone from high speed, even here Nurburgring, and the back end will start jumping around and things like that just because it starts getting a little nervous. And then when you start getting into the other corners, it can just mess the whole balance of the car up. So just, again, it doesn't like it. So just back off a little bit on the brake bias and, keep it more to the front and use the advantages of the car. Use the motor, use the corner speed, use those kinds of things, and concentrate more from the mid out. Concentrate more on the middle of the corner and coming off, because I mean that's where this thing just is a rocket with the way it hooks up and with the engine. And also with that, just take care of the rear tires. Obviously the motor's got a lot of power, and if you're really trying to push it right to the max, like qualifying every single lap, you could wear the rear tires prematurely just because it's got so much power. So just be aware of that. You might put the traction control up one more notch or something, just to get it, so you don't kill the tires. It does wear the rear tires faster than the fronts, at least what I could find out. What tracks that I was driving at, it was. And I did drive the car at Zolder, I did drive it at Barcelona, I did drive it at Monza in here. So I drove it at 3 or 4 kind of different tracks, trying to see some times and some areas where its strengths and weaknesses were. At Monza, this thing was awesome at Monza. So again, there's a lot of different, but it's good anywhere. I mean, really, any of those places. I would recommend, Spa, Mount Panorama, Monza, Silverstone. This is definitely a great car for Silverstone. It's again got some great attributes to where you can take it to a smaller track like Zolder and it still be very good. You can still take it to Monza, which is a big track, fast straightaways. It's still going to be really good. Or Silverstone, which has got a combination, but it's pretty flat. It's going to be really, really good. So, it's very competitive once you're used to the car, and once you're confident with the setup that it'll work. So let's go from there and show the setup. This was a good race. I'll just talk about it just for a second. I finished 4th. I really wanted to get up to the 3rd and see if I could get into 3rd, which of course was just a short little race. But man, of course the AI is at 100. I mean, just like I always have. And I think the aggression's 96 or 97. I can't remember. But it was fun. I had a good time. Started 6th, got up to 4th, in 15 minutes. And of course, the car was very consistent. We'll run over that. I'm running pretty much 55s all the way down, which for me is not bad. Not a blistering time, but a very good time, and I think it was a time it was holding on very consistently. So let's go ahead and I'll show some of that as far as the timetables. So there's the timetables, and of course the first, I was battling was 56.6, but you can see all the rest of them are 55. So that's a 56. I think I messed up something with there because it's out of bounds, but all the rest of them are 55s. And again, I was even fighting with the AMG, and I still was getting it. That might have been where I got the 56. But still, I think it's some decent times for me. And I did run a 54.8 in practice, trying to do a hot lap. So again, it's not bad for me with the Bentley. Let's go over the setup for people that want to take it down that way. I got 26.4 on the left front and 26.3 on the left rear, 26.7 on the right front and 26.5 on the right rear. The toe is negative 0.1 and the camber is negative 3.2. The caster is 14, that's on the front, and on the rear the toe is 0.15 with the camber at negative 2.8. The electronics are 3 and 5. And the fuel 62 liters. And I'll show the tires. There's the tires from the race. You can see the wear is very good. 280, 82, 83, 83, 85, 86. I mean, there's no graining. Of course, it's just 15 minutes, but still, I don't show any kind of graining or anything. So I'm really happy with that. Mechanical, I got 6 on the anti-roll bar. Again, the brake bias is 61. I did run it down to 60, I think. That's about the limit. After that, it really started feeling bad. The springs are 160,000 on the front with a 1,000 bump stop rate and a 1 bump stop range. And on the rear, the springs are 155,000 with a bump stop rate of 800 and a bump stop range of 8. The anti-roll bar is 5 on the rear and 90 on the preload on the diff. The shocks on the front are 18, 15, 22, and 20. And on the rear, they're 18, 15, 22, and 18. Aero, I have 57 ride height on the front and 63 on the rear with a 7 rear wing and a 4 and a 3 in the brake ducts. And the front aero variation is negative 6.1. So again, a lot of negative to the front, and with the aero variation, that's just the way the Bentley is. And again, I will put a link in the description for anybody that wants to copy it down that way. And any feedback or comments are definitely appreciated and welcome. And if y'all like this, just please let me know so I'll keep doing them. And the CP server, just for everybody's information, has been down, so I'm not sure what will, as far as how many, if I get any multiplayers in or not, because the competition server has been down. So I have to see how that goes. But I can do some other things, and I sure hope you enjoyed it. Please give me a thumbs up. I sure would appreciate it. Help the channel, and also if you subscribe if you haven't subscribed. And I sure hope you come back and visit really soon. Thank you to everybody, and y'all take care. See ya.